Welcome to Houston Sports Talk with your host, Robert Land.
Whoa, sweated that thing out. Oh my goodness. Thanks for checking into the Best Houston Sports Podcast, our live Texans-Bears post-game show. We're part of the Bleav network. Joining me, contributor Tom Chavarria, co-host of the Bullpen podcast. And Tom, the Texans tried to do everything they could to hand this one to the Bears. I mean, just put it on a silver platter for them. Why don't you?
I definitely feel like they played down to their competition a little bit. They kind of felt like the name on the front of the jersey was going to be enough. And luckily, they had just enough to get it done.
Yeah, it was not pretty. 12 penalties, is that right? That was the last count I had, 12 penalties.
Yeah, definitely something they've got to coach up. I really think the offensive line really struggled a lot tonight with stuff that's easily correctable. You know, just I don't know what else to say.
No, it was not good. And hey, tip of the cap to Caleb Williams, who, just showed a lot of toughness, would not go down easily. The Texans nearly had him dead to rights many times. He escaped. So good for him on that. And just, the Texans eked one out. If you're watching us live, we want to hear from you. Send us your questions and comments. And hey, who's your Texans MVP for this one? We're going to talk about that one towards the end of the show. So stay tuned and let us know what you think, and we'll post your reactions as we move along. And if you're new to Houston Sports Talk, we go live after every Texans post-game show or post-game. So make us a part of your Texans routine. Let's get to the action, possession by possession. We're going to tear this thing down. Texans first drive, Mixon a couple of key first downs with a catch and a 16-yard run. Unfortunately, we didn't hear enough of Mixon in this game. We'll talk about that one in a little bit later, but a Kenyon Green false start helped kill the drive. Like I said, penalties. And Fairbairn is dead solid on a 56-yarder. But Tom, the Bears respond with the field goal drive on third down. Alshire came on a blitz, and Will Anderson, who was everywhere in this game. I mean, he was all over the place. He finished off that one with a sack.
Absolutely. I can't say enough good things about the defense. Obviously, there's some critiques we can make as we go through the game, but for the most part, I really thought they picked up this offense. They just really struggled to consistently keep drives going and put it in the end zone.
Yeah, Tom said a win is a win. A win is a win. This is the NFL. Bill O'Brien would say, hey, these aren't easy. 9-7 is not the goal. Oh, that's right. No, 9-7 was kind of the goal with him. Texans next possession, 4th and 1 at midfield. Cade Stover gets his first NFL catch. And Tom, boy, a good couple of plays back to back from him. The next one on the tank end around, Stover, a hell of a block to spring big yards.
I really love what Stover's doing early on in his career. I think he is going to be the perfect addition to this as a weapon for CJ when it becomes his turn. Obviously, there's a lot of mouths to feed in this offense, but I think Cade is doing the right thing, just being slowly ingrained as a fullback and then being able to be a weapon out of the backfield for CJ Stroud. I mean, it's awesome when you think about all the different players that CJ Stroud can use, and Stover just proves to be a reliable target every time.
Yeah, and you talk about the weapons that they've got. We're going to talk about a weapon that really hasn't had a good couple of first games by his own standards, I'm sure. But later in the drive, unfortunately, Nico called for that personal foul when the refs missed a poke in Nico's eye. But Nico says, I got your back. I got you. He gets revenge. Very next play, 28-yard touchdown catch. And Tom, I also made note of the great pocket Stroud had to work with on that throw. I have some criticism later of the O-line, but on that one, they looked good.
Yeah, I truly believe when the O-line is right, you see a much better game out of CJ Stroud. CJ had to do a lot of work, constantly under duress, trying to get out and finding receivers. Can't say enough good things about Nico Collins right now. He's clearly the top dog in the wide receiver room right now. He's just making play after play. I hate that the officiating seemed really, really poor early on. I mean, obviously there's a little bias on my end. I felt like they were just catching the Texans on the return a lot. And it worked out to even out towards the end of the game. But I felt like early on it was really one-sided.
Yeah, they got away with a big one that we're going to talk about a little bit later. The Texans did. But Tony says, hey, look, the Bears, it's a good team defensively. Yeah, no question. I mean, they showed, and they got away with some stuff the Texans did because there was a couple near turnovers. Stroud got lucky again, but the good ones always get lucky, as I like to say. Team Texans on defense, Team Texans on D, quick 3 and out, thanks to Will Anderson being unblocked and forcing a third down incompletion. Texans back on offense. And Tom, this is what I love about the current Texans. This particular moment, right after Diggs makes that great sideline catch, they quickly try to snap the ball. And because the Bears didn't get a good look at the replay, they end up wasting a challenge. And we've never seen a Texan team that thinks this quickly on their feet.
You're 100% right. Credit to D'Amico Ryans just being well schooled. I think so far he's coached really two really good games from a coaching standpoint, as far as like when to use your challenges and things of that nature, when to go quick. I really love what D'Amico's doing. I think he's a phenomenal coach, and he's only going to get better. And that was a perfect example of that.
Yeah, M Gentle 3 says the new cardiac kids. And yeah, I mean, we saw this last year. It's like a rerun. They figure out a way and they keep it close, and it just never seems like it's like we're going to get an easy win. But you could also say, well, that's kind of the NFL. That drive continued, by the way. Stroud, an amazing scramble and throw to Nico. What a magician! I mean, he's pulled off some great ones already this year. But on third down, Diggs comes up just short on the dive, and after a challenge, moves it within a few inches. D'Amico still takes the field goal. And I'm curious, Tom, what did you think about that? Would you have gone for it right there? It's pretty short. Still had Mixon in the game at that point, too.
I absolutely felt like they got it wrong. I thought that was a first down. I think he should have went for it. Obviously, the success was already there. I think you had a team that probably didn't know what was coming, obviously, because they did the play action, was able to get the first down on the first one. So you probably could have ran it and got half a yard. You probably could have sneaked it and got a yard. There was so many different ways they could have went about it. But points are points, and you need those. I think later on in the season, maybe those are touchdowns and we're not talking about it. But early on, I think D'Amico's really adamant about putting points on the board, and he needed them late.
Yeah, and it's an issue right now. I mean, they're kicking a bunch of field goals. We're going to, give a real shoulder lift to Kaimi, I'm sure, as the show goes on. But, yeah, that's something that they've got to start getting done. They got to finish off these drives, and field goals are okay at times, but you can't be kicking them all the time. And, luckily they've gotten away with it because the Colts – had Anthony Richardson, and then you had a rookie quarterback in this game. And Anthony Richardson was basically a rookie last week. I mean, barely played last year, as we remember. So the Texans, they do go up right there, 13-3 after Fairbairn's 47-yard field goal. And before we roll on with this show, got to mention that we need to hear from you. Share your thoughts on YouTube. If you're not watching live, if you are watching live, we want to hear from you right now. It'd be great. Click the like button to support the show no matter what up on YouTube. This week's Houston Sports Talk celebrates its 11th anniversary this week as a podcast. We are 11 years old. And if you haven't done so already, if you like our content, subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Preferably, we want to get you on both of those, your podcast app and YouTube, just in case you miss us on YouTube on a certain week. You can always listen to us on the run. So, I'm just really excited. It's 11th anniversary, and we can't believe it.
It's awesome.
Yeah, no question about it. Back to the action, and let's talk about a Derek Barnett sack, which forces a punt. Barnett, again, looking good when he's had his chances, but the Texans with a quick 3 and out after Stroud is sacked on a third down blitz. He had Diggs open in the middle of the field. I made a note of that, but CJ didn't see him quickly enough. Bad punt by Tommy Townsend, who really didn't have a great game for all the good that we saw of him in the preseason. He struggled on a couple of punts, but a Kalen Bullock pass interference also screwed things up because that set up Herbert's touchdown run, Tom.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. I thought Kalen Bullock did a good job of making a break on the ball. He just can't go through the guy to get to it. And every time you do that, you're going to get the whistle. I think he'll clean that up. That's something that, rookies will do from time to time. Still love the way that Caleb Bullock plays. Think he's going to be a really good player. If I'm being critical of CJ, and I never want to be because he's so great, so talented, makes so many plays. Tonight, I really felt like he held onto the ball a touch too long. There were plays that he could have made, just taking the simple check down to Mixon or a tight end, and he was looking deeper because obviously he's got all the talent down there. And it just the line wasn't able to support that. In future games, I think they will be. But tonight, I felt like he needed to realize the line just wasn't operating at, I guess, high level and take what they were giving him.
Yeah, Michael D says too many penalties. Yeah, we discussed that one. That is going to come up again as we move on with this one. Final seconds of the half. Nico, great one-handed sideline catch. But Tom, I was not a fan of running a play with 9 seconds when you're out of timeouts and in range for a 54-yard field goal, which is like a chip shot for Kamari Fairbairn these days. Tunsil gets the penalty to push it back 5 yards. Tunsil, 2 more penalties in this game. But luckily, Fairbairn, he's just like the guy is money. Just take him to Vegas because he's money right now.
Yeah, I think if you don't have CJ Stroud, if you don't have one of these elite generational quarterbacks, you're not running a play with 9 seconds. That's the CJ Stroud effect. I think you're going to get more opportunities. You're going to take more chances, take more risks because you trust the guy with the football in his hands. Ultimately, they still get the 3, which is the most important thing. I love Laramie Tunsil and I hate Laramie Tunsil. I don't hate Laramie Tunsil. I don't even know him. But I can't get over how this guy, for as great as he is, has one of these false starts every game.
No question. And he's gotten 4, I think, already this year. A couple of those were 2 offensive linemen. They could have called it on either one of them. And we haven't mentioned it yet, Tom, but it mattered, I think, a little bit at times that Jared Patterson was in for Juice Scruggs. It matters because he's not as good a run blocker. He's a good pass blocker, not as good a run blocker, but also it seemed like the timing might have been off a couple of times with the snap too. And when 2 guys jump and one of those guys is not the center, then something is miscommunicated right there.
100%. Definitely agree. Hopefully the Juice Scruggs thing is short-lived and we're back to running the football well.
Third quarter, Texans force a quick 3 and out. Kamari Lassiter got lucky on 3rd down because DeAndre Carter, former Texan, had him beat, but Caleb overthrew it. So the Texans, get a chance to do something, but they miss a golden opportunity on offense when Tank drops a perfect throw by Stroud. If he catches it in stride, Tom, it's probably a touchdown. And this is a good time to bring up the comment that we've got from Jumanji's, who said, offensive production looks a lot better if Tank makes that catch. And then also they don't fumble at the goal line, of course, which we're going to get to that later. But yeah, that made a difference as well. Like we said, they were just shooting themselves in the foot, just not doing what they needed to do. Yeah,
that's a play that Tank usually makes. I felt like Tank Dell was going to have a monster game today. And it was unfortunate because like the Jumanji said, he makes that catch. CJ's probably over 300 yards. There's probably another touchdown. We're looking at this thing totally differently. And that's the NFL, though.
Tank and CJ just don't seem to be on the same page. I mean, they could not connect in this game. Stroud was missing him a couple of times. Obviously, Tank couldn't make that catch. Didn't have a great week, at least in the passing game last week. He had a couple nice runs. But, you'd like to see those guys get it together. And if that can happen, then this offense can really start clicking.
For sure.
So let's go to next up is, the drive was costly because Mixon also went down with an injury on that drive, which leads to the Cam Akers debut, which we will get to the Cam Akers debut and more about that. Dameon Pierce, if you missed it, not dressed with an injury. Might have been the first time some of the people at the game noticed that, oh, it's not Dameon Pierce, it's Cam Akers. So the Texans D, though, gets another 3 and out. Could have been great field position after a good punt return from Sims. But again, where's my foot? I want to shoot myself in it. And the guy that's shooting himself in it a lot is Mike Ford. 2 special teams penalties. And Tom, the Texans made this game hard with the penalties because right after the Texans 3 and out, Lassiter, oh my goodness, nice interception. His first of his life. and it's erased because of a To'o-To'o holding call.
Yeah, I thought the holding call was really light. I really didn't agree with that call at all. You see way more like hand-to-hand fighting that doesn't get called. But there's nothing you can do about it. The referee's decision is his decision. I just didn't agree with a lot of the refereeing early on, that to be included. Love what Lassiter did. He basically was the wide receiver on that play. And both corners, you can just tell they are some handsy guys. They go up and high point the football, which, that's something a wide receiver would normally do. So really, really great to see Lassiter get his first pick.
No question. And really is first of 2 picks tonight, but not officially. We're going to talk about that second one coming up. But the Texans get lucky. Alshire isn't penalized after throwing that punch. And you talked about the Texans weren't getting breaks early. This was a huge, to lose Alshire without Christian Harris already. There's no depth at linebacker. And I'm frankly, I don't know about you. Should I worry about this going into next week? Could he get suspended because of this punch? I mean, this is a big deal.
100%. I definitely believe that the league is going to look at it because it was made a huge point on the broadcast. And hopefully it's just a heavy fine and not a suspension. But I could understand the suspension because obviously you want to protect the players. I really hate that it took so long for the officials to get over there and kind of break stuff up. They really allowed the entire Bears team on the sidelines to surround Alshire. And I think that's what really made that whole thing happen. If they get in there early and break that up, we're not talking about it, hopefully. But really, really hope they don't suspend him for the following week. But I could understand it.
People are going to say, oh, heat of the battle. You got to give it to Alshire. Look, you're a captain. You're a captain. And I just expected a level head from that guy. And when you hit the quarterback that hard near their sideline, you just got to expect, Tom, that they're going to come after you a little bit. And I don't think anybody took a cheap shot at him. I just think that was not smart. It's really not smart because it's a close game. You're trying to do big things this year. You cannot afford to make a mistake where you either get kicked out of that game or you get kicked out of future games.
Yeah, I think he would agree with you. I think in his post game, he'll probably say the exact same thing. I think that's something that, you can coach up. Obviously, he's a veteran in this league, a captain like you spoke to, but I do kind of understand where he's coming from. They really shouldn't have this huge huddle over the top of him. He felt like he was fighting out of a corner. Hopefully cooler heads prevail. And this is the last time we're talking about it, but I don't know.
Yeah. I just felt like the Texans, they've got to keep their head. I mean, we saw it earlier with Nico, getting the penalty with the, after the poke in the, he shoves him. And look, if the guy shoves you in the eye, you know what you do? You do the old, soccer thing. You take a fall right there, right, Tom? You got to take the fall.
I mean, if you want to sell that call, absolutely. I just really hate that it was officiated in that manner, especially with the Nico thing. If you're rolling up onto the play, you see the guy poke the guy in the eye, and then I didn't feel like what Nico did just warranted, a flag. It wasn't like he was overly aggressive. It was more like a shove, like get out of my face. And you normally see a lot of officiating crews let stuff like that go. But they called the flag.
So there's a Will Anderson sack that gets the defense off the field despite the Alshire penalty. And again, the Texans offense, he's not, I should say Alshire non-penalty. But again, the Texans offense can't get anything going. The O-line, again, I'm just going to say it. I thought they looked awful on this Stroud sack, and I wasn't happy most of the game with their pass protection. I haven't been happy with their pass protection, period. And I'm wondering why the Texans, Tom, just gave up on the run in this game. That's to me, if there's one coaching issue that I had for this particular game, besides the fact that they were just, getting stupid penalties left and right, it was the fact that they gave up on the run.
I didn't understand it either. I really thought they were unbalanced, and it let Chicago kind of dictate what they were going to do defensively instead of keeping them honest and just really forcing the rock down their throats. I think that's very important. I think Bobby Sloak would probably tell you that too. I really felt like he just got caught up in the moment, knowing he has CJ Stroud that can go make plays. But had they kept that game more, balanced, then maybe you're not seeing a secondary that's loaded up. And I don't think CJ had a lot of places to go with the football. I thought he did really well, but it just highlighted how much they threw the ball because they weren't able to, they didn't run it. And
and here's the other thing. I thought I'm good early on with them not running the ball because we know the Bears are probably loading up after what happened last week. But as the game wore on and you're not exactly killing it on offense, you're getting field goals and you're having some issues too. I thought, okay, let's start running the football. Middle of the second quarter, late in the second quarter, early in the third quarter. Where was it? When Mixon went out of the game, I sort of understood a little bit. Maybe we're not going to pass the ball, or maybe we're not going to run the ball as much. But that's what I didn't understand is like at some point you've got to switch gears.
Absolutely. I think Cam Akers had a couple of plays where he was able to get good first down yardage, and it kind of highlighted how that should have been the focus in the second and third quarter. And it probably would have changed the game for them.
Yeah. Brian says Titus Howard looking real weak. They kept getting past him with speed rush, not even much power. I agree. I mean, I don't like what I've seen from Titus so far, and I don't think this is an injury issue with Titus. I didn't feel like he was that badly hurt because they were playing him all through the training camp, even though he wasn't playing a whole lot in preseason, but he was not somebody that wasn't out there. Like we know Laramie Tunsil his knee's not right. I mean, he was still not playing much coming into the season. And I'm still questioning whether he's 100% because the way he's looking on pass rush, but Titus, I want to see some more from this guy. I mean, they paid him all that money for that extension for a guy that I felt like was very average as a right tackle. Tom, I don't like it. I don't like what I'm seeing from Titus right now.
The one thing I'll say in his defense a little bit is, when you've got to make that switch from guard to tackle and then back to tackle, I think there's a little bit that maybe kind of like a refamiliarization that he needs to kind of have. I really feel like he should have played more in the preseason. I think that kind of hurt him. Obviously he's a veteran, so they kind of felt like he could just kind of fall back into the role, but you're seeing him get beat on some plays. And I think late in the game when you need those guys to be really solid, CJ, I mean, we'll talk about it, but there was just plays he could have made that I think would have helped CJ be better. And they really got to clean it up because there's no one else. I really feel like that's your line right there. You got to have those guys.
Yeah, Blake Fisher probably not ready yet. They don't want to go to him. You've already paid the money to Titus, so you're knee deep in this stuff. So let's get back to the game action. Bears on offense. Derek Stingley. We finally got a Derek Stingley doing good stuff sighting this year. Beautiful interception. I was hoping that interception would sort of ignite the second half offense, but not so much. We got Stroud to Nico magic again. So that was good. Great throw on the scramble. But Tom, Fairbairn just has to make this offense look better than it really should be. I mean, he is making the offense look better than it really should be with another 50-plus field goal. It's his fourth of the night. Fourth 50-plus yard field goal of the night. I don't think Bill O'Brien thought Fairbairn was allowed to kick 50-yard field goals when he was coach.
Yeah, Fairbairn did an amazing job. I mean, I did not think when this game started that he would be the guy that would kind of be the star of the show. But as time went on, he just kept banging them home. Credit to Kaimi to be, really good from deep. I think he specializes in the 50-plus. His numbers are really good there. I think there was a couple of those kicks he probably would have been good from like 65. Like there were some really, really good kicks. I just wish that wasn't the case.
Yeah, this has got to end. We got to get some touchdowns. We got to at least get a little bit deeper into the territory. How about that? So you don't have to kick 50-yarders every time. Back to the action. Texans defense, fantastic in the second half. Hunter nearly gets a sack. Caleb escapes, but Lassiter didn't get this first official interception before, but this one's official. No penalties on this one, Tom.
Yeah, it was a great play by Kamari Lassiter. Definitely paying off the draft pick, paying off the team for having the faith, starting him right out of the box. The edge rush was so good tonight. I know a lot of people questioned it after the first game because there wasn't sacks. Tonight, those guys were flying around everywhere. I think the numbers should have been better than what they were. credit to Caleb Williams. He made a couple of those guys miss, which a normal quarterback does not make those guys miss. Will Anderson had a play that you talked about where it probably should have been a sack. Danielle Hunter had a play where it probably should have been a sack. Those guys both get sacks eventually. Defense looked phenomenal in the second half. It just needed to be, though.
Yeah, they had to do all the heavy lifting in this game because, again, Stroud's offense can't even take advantage of Lassiter and the interception. The Bears get a coverage sack. This is, to your point earlier, that was a coverage sack. That was totally on CJ Stroud. But the Texans D, just incredible in the second half because Mario Edwards, great stunt and sack on third down. Looked like the Texans were going to put the dagger after a Schultz catch, puts it inside the 5. But Akers, who's in for Mixon, boy, it just always seems to bite you when some guy's in there that normally you wouldn't have wanted in there at that time. He fumbles. Mixon doesn't fumble a lot in his career. So that was huge, obviously, and that could have put it away, made things so much easier. And again, like I said to start the show, the Texans just could have made this game so much easier. And this is stuff that's got to get clean. I know it's week 2, but you got the same coach, a lot of the same guys. There's a lot of veterans on this team that are making these mistakes, Tom. These are not a bunch of rookies out there making the mistakes. I mean, Lassiter, he was making interceptions. I mean, the veterans were making a lot of the mistakes.
Yeah, I totally agree. The Cam Akers thing, I hate that for him because obviously he's coming off the Achilles thing. He's looked really good in preseason, looked really good his first time out the box. I just thought it was a great play by the Bears. The dude literally put his helmet on the football. I don't know if Mixon holds on to that ball, if the play is the exact same. It was a really great play by the Bears. You need them to, though. You need the Texans to be more careful with the football because the offense just sputtered so much. Hopefully this is the last time we're talking about a lot of these things. They look so much better next week.
So the Bears are now down 9, and a Mario Edwards roughing the passer penalty helps the Bears into field goal range. So, and by the way, I don't have any problem with his roughing the penalty because, it's one of those that are roughing the passer. It's just one of those where, you're trying to make a play. You're trying to jump over a defensive lineman and try to get to the quarterback, and it's just bad luck. So again, the Texans need late first downs to clinch it after the field goal by the Bears. But this time they don't have Joe Mixon to lean on. They had the game clinched though. But again, the O-line was an issue and Adam brings it up. He says, I didn't keep track of all the penalties, but how many were made on the O-line? It seemed like a few. And Titus Howard, that hands to the face call was just silly, especially in that situation. You can't do that. And that was officially their 12th of the game.
Yeah, really tough for Titus Howard there. You really got to be more disciplined because CJ goes and makes a play for you. He gets the first down. All you have to do is keep it clean. And I feel like the Texans normally are really, really clean as far as penalties. I feel like this game was really an outlier for that. I really hope it is anyway. A lot, like he said, was on the offensive line with Titus and Laramie and Kenyon Green. And just, it's tough. It's really tough when you're asking CJ on 1st and 15, 2nd 15, so many different penalties push them back on offense. And I think that had a lot to do with why the offense sputtered so much.
Danielle Hunter, huge sack late in the game on that last drive. Texans finally close things out. I can finally take a breath and breathe out for the first time. And I mean, Tom, it's one of these deals where the Texans right now are very lucky early in the season because they're getting quarterbacks that are not experienced and cannot take advantage of the Texans making some simple mistakes. Not too many on defense, but the penalties can be costly, the penalties they've had on defense. And, some coverage stuff that we saw, more of it last week than this week. I don't think we saw as many coverage breakdowns this week as we did last week. Definitely didn't see the deep stuff, but, Caleb really didn't have the time. And, I would have been fine if they blitzed him just about every down because he had no answer for that.
Yeah, I think the Texans are really fortunate right now, like you said, because they're running into some quarterbacks that can't take advantage of their mistakes. We talked about the Colts last week and how if Anthony Richardson was able to make throws, they probably score more points. I could say the same thing today for Caleb Williams. I felt like there was a couple throws he missed. The interception that Stingley had was a poorly underthrown ball. You get DJ Moore behind him, and if he throws the ball out, maybe he makes a play. But I mean, credit to Stingley. He actually absolutely went up and got it. But I think these quarterbacks are the reason why these teams have lost a couple of their games. And I think the Texans are only going to benefit from it. They're going to get better as the season progresses and goes on. The good teams always find a way to eke out those games. You look at teams like Kansas City that's able to do this, maybe not have their best stuff, maybe not have all their players clicking, but they find a way to eke out a game. The Texans are 2-0, and that's a great place to be right now.
Hopefully, CJ Stroud gets a little bit more help and pass protection from his offensive line moving forward. But he was 23 of 36, 260 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions. Again, he's taking care of the football. Got a little bit of a break when that defensive back almost made a spectacular. I think it was the defensive back made it almost a spectacular interception there. But Nico Collins, another incredible week, 8 catches, 135 yards, 1 touchdown. This is where I ask you, who's your MVP? And to me, I think it's open and shut. My MVP, Kamari Fairbairn. This is an easy one.
Yeah, absolutely. They don't win this game without him today. He was responsible for so many points. I mean, and none of these kicks were gimmies. They were all he had to bang them home. They were from deep. So Kamari Fairbairn, definitely my player of the game as well. Super happy that, for the national media to see the Texans and get the win. Normally Houston teams and national media don't mix. They play down. So today to get the win, you love it.
You know who didn't love it? A lot of people in Vegas did not love this one if you bet on because remember that spread I think had gone up as the week went on. And I don't know, do you remember what it was prior to the game? Because the last I saw it was 6.5. So that meant, 6 did not cover. And so that Cam Akers fumble, I was just thinking, there's a lot of people that just lost a bunch of money because I knew at that point there's no way it's going to be more than a 6-point game.
I don't know how they do it. Vegas always does it. Vegas is always right there. You see the line. I think it was at 6 and then 6.5 towards the very end. So if you got it, any earlier than that, maybe you made some money, but Vegas normally wins those things.
Little hat tip to Henry To'o-To'o. I was hard on him last year. No confidence in him this year. 13 tackles in this game, 9 solo. I don't know if he's played great, but at the worst, he's played good so far. He had a sack. He had a tackle for loss. I'm talking about on this season. In this game, he mostly played great. I mean, I'm trying to you're convincing me that holding penalty was was not a good one. So if that's the case, then he's your defensive player of the game for sure.
I don't understand the Henry To'o-To'o hate. I feel like this is a second-year player. Linebacker is an incredibly tough spot to learn. You got a lot of responsibility. I think he's played phenomenal. I think Jalen Pitre is another guy. I think when we're talking about these young guys, sometimes it takes a little while to get into some of these positions and to be great. And I think the bar is just so high, and you get a lot of guys that get really excited about a player and then immediately just discard that player. I think both of these guys have been phenomenal for the Texans to start out. And these were guys that people were ready to strap to a rocket and ship them off their team last year.
Right. And I don't know if people just thought To'o-To'o was, terrible, but because he was a rookie. But I do feel like there was concern from some people that he doesn't look big enough. He doesn't look fast enough. And they said on the broadcast, Tom, I think that's important to note, he lost 10 pounds. They said he's faster after he lost that weight. And I thought he had to pick something. He had to either pick, I'm going to be bigger or I'm going to be faster. And he decided I'm going to be faster. Whereas Dameon Pierce, I just don't know if losing the weight helped. I think with To'o-To'o, it's definitely helped. And you mentioned Jalen Pitre too. Yeah, no, he's turned it around. I mean, he had a tackle for loss, 10 tackles on the day, 8 solo. And the thing about Jalen Pitre too was a couple of big hits, but he managed not to get penalized. I thought the first one, he could have gotten penalized because that one in the backfield, it looked like it was helmet to helmet. But the second one, yeah, that was a good tackle. He used his shoulder. He got him to the ground. And you know what the other thing is? He's getting guys to the ground this year. He wasn't doing that the last 2 years. That's the big difference with him in my process here.
Yeah, definitely. There were some missed tackles, but I mean, to be that guy that comes up from a safety position and come make plays in the backfield or guys at the line of scrimmage, it's a really tough ask. Not a lot of safeties are really good at that. A lot of them play more coverage. And I think that was kind of the knock on Pitre was that, okay, if you're not going to play coverage, I need you to be that missile that I can send into the backfield on blitzes and stuff like that. And he wasn't getting home. He wasn't making these tackles. He was missing tackles. So he was like bad on both ends. Now I really feel like he's cleaned up his game entirely. You see him make way more tackles. You see him miss far fewer ones. And I even think he's good in coverage too.
And the other part about this defense is, we haven't given him a ton of flowers, but Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson did what they were supposed to do with the rookie quarterback. They combined for 3 sacks and 4 tackles for loss. So they did their job. They couldn't get him to the ground more because he's so elusive. But, that's what you wanted from that pass rush. And so, they did a hell of a job. How many sacks total? Let me check. The Texans had 7 sacks. So that's good. It's 9 tackles for loss. So the defense did what they were supposed to do against this Bears team. And you can't say maybe they overachieved, but this Bears team just doesn't look good. They didn't look good against the Titans last week, obviously. Caleb, definitely better, like they said on the broadcast, but there's still a ton of work for him to do. He's got to throw some more catchable balls for his receivers. And, there's some mistakes that he can clean up, but his O-line also not the greatest. I mean, they haven't looked good the first couple of weeks either.
Yeah, 100%. I really think that they should have probably leaned on the running game a little bit more. But I mean, the Texans did a really good job shutting that down too. So they were kind of behind the sticks on a couple of plays where they lost yards on runs. It's a lot to ask a rookie quarterback. Everybody feels like the next CJ Stroud is coming, the next CJ Stroud, and it's like at some point you got to realize CJ Stroud's just really, really good. And while I'm not taking anything away from Caleb Williams, I'm not saying he can't be a very, very good quarterback. To just automatically think he's going to come out of the box and look like CJ is a lot to ask.
Bears fan has a comment. Savon said, "You have a godly kicker." Oh my God. So good to get some love from other people. Yeah, no, he's been amazing. I saw somebody on Twitter say, well, all these people said a few years ago it was dumb to sign him to the extent. Well, they signed him to a huge extension like he was one of the best kickers in the NFL. He wasn't then. This is not the same guy that Bill O'Brien signed to an extension. And it just shows, like, we give all these other positions plenty of chances. And if they screw up their first or second year, we go, oh, they're young. Kickers, sometimes we just don't think about it in terms of kickers. You got to get used to the speed of the NFL as a kicker too.
100%. I was one of those guys. I wasn't in love with Kamari Fairbairn early on. I thought, while he was really good with the deep ball, I thought sometimes the intermediate kicks, where I felt like he needed to be more accurate, he wasn't. But to your point, as time has gone on, he's just been more consistent, and now he's basically a rock back there. I don't know that I would give him the top kicker mantle. I still think there's some really good guys. Justin Tucker, for me, is the dude, but he's definitely climbing those ranks to being one of the best kickers in the game.
The Texans just didn't get 1 win today. They got 4 wins today because everybody in the AFC South lost. They are combined 0-6. The Texans have a 2-game lead already on the AFC South. And Tom, it might not matter a whole lot. It's still early in the season, but I took note that, you know what? The Ravens are 0-2 now. And that's a team that scares me because they always play the Texans well. They're always well coached. If they're struggling early, that's a good thing for the Texans because that's a team I would love for somebody to take their knees out before you got to play them later in the season and then potentially in the playoffs.
Absolutely. I really am kind of curious of what the Ravens have going on because I just felt like Lamar Jackson was going to be so dynamic and so good. And he's had a game where he rushed for a ton and they lost. He had a game where they didn't rush for a ton and they lost. So for me, as a Texan fan, looking at the AFC as a whole, I really don't. I mean, obviously Kansas City's there. I kind of look past the division at this point. I really, and this is not a slight. I just feel like the Texans have assembled a roster, and Nick Caserio's done a phenomenal job of putting together a team that is just so much better than the rest of the division, and it really is kind of showing in the standings right now. So with the rest of the AFC, you're starting to look, okay, there's Kansas City and who, and right now I feel like there's Kansas City and then there's Houston.
What did you think about opening the roof? I noticed the announcers did not seem to understand. The NBC guys just didn't understand that. Oh yeah, if the roof was closed, there's a hole in the roof, so that's going to affect your nice, cool air conditioning. It's going to be an issue. And that was the big reason, because they never mentioned the fact that there is a hole in the roof. But what did you think about just letting it open? I think they had a fireworks show at the game and stuff like that.
I loved it. I really, really loved it. I hate that the Astros do that. And I understand why they don't, because the players don't want it. They want the roof closed. They like whatever that is. I guess the crowd noise is louder or whatever. But I think we have two phenomenal stadiums in Houston that they should open both of these roofs. Tonight was beautiful. I thought the Texan Stadium looks phenomenal with the roof open. You give me that every chance you can. I think I'll deal with whatever the AC situation is. I feel like Minute Maid's really hot with the roof closed. So I thought it was great. It's an opportunity to showcase the ballpark with a open roof, which we just don't get.
Yeah, and I'll make the point too, and I'm with you to a degree, but I think NRG is a different thing than Minute Maid, and I'll explain. Minute Maid, when the roof is open, for those who have been there, when these two stadiums, when the roof is open, they're different experiences, and you'll know what I'm talking about. When the roof is open at Minute Maid, a breeze comes in because of the design of it. It's like an open air stadium, and it works. You also have this beautiful skyline and all that. With the Texans, it's a hole in the roof. I was there in 2004 when they had the roof open for a Carolina Panthers game, Carolina that would later go on to play in the Super Bowl that year. And it turns into an oven because there's no breeze. And even on a day where it's 75 degrees, if you're in that sunlight at NRG, Tom, I'm telling you, you're going to get cooked. It gets that hot because there's literally no breeze at all.
As long as the beer is cold, sign me up. I'll be the difference. I'll sweat it out. I love the idea of having the roof open. I get the people that want the comforts of conditioned air, but for me, I'm yelling. I'm sweating anyway just from moving around. I don't care.
I heard somebody say in the press box, I think Cody Stutes might have put this up. Somebody was overheard saying, "What is that building next to the stadium?" And they had no idea what it was. And they were like, "Oh, they used to play there." And they're like, "Oh, it looks like a dump." And I'm like, "Oh my God." Like can people not like look up history? Like you're in Houston. The Astrodome was one of the signature buildings in the history of sports. How do you not know this? But anyway, and let me just tell you, yeah, I'm old, but I also, as a kid, I knew my history. I knew my sports history. I cared about it. I would have known what the Astrodome was like if I was a kid today. I would know it, and even if I was living in Chicago, I would know what it is. But any other thoughts before we take off, Tom? I feel like, there was a lot that went on in this game, and I'm hoping I'm not missing any key storylines. Nobody's gotten on the comments and said anything that I haven't thought of already. So that's good. Was there anything that you think I missed?
For me, I'm just hopeful for the health of Joe Mixon. I think the big story coming out of the game right now is what's his status going to be going forward? How bad is that ankle? Hopefully it's something minor. Hopefully it's something that we're not talking about next week. Joe Mixon definitely changes his team. We saw what he did in week 1. We saw what they looked like when he wasn't on the field. So for me, totally excited they got the win. Obviously the class of the division, but the health of Joe Mixon is going to be a concern for me going forward.
If I'm complaining about anything, if I have a red flag so far this year, this offensive line has got to get it together in the pass rush. I mean, the Texans offensive line has guys that should not be doing this bad on the pass rush. This is not, Jared Patterson in his second year. He was good last year and he's good this year in the pass rush. I didn't feel like it was his issue. I felt like the issues were off the edge. And the guys like Laremy Tunsil and Titus Howard that I'm depending on to do their job have not done their job in the pass rush so far this year. That stuff has got to get straightened out. Kenyon Green, I haven't been particularly impressed with him in pass rush over the course of his career, but boy, we almost have to treat Kenyon Green like he's starting from scratch. So I'm willing to give him some more time. It's just the veterans. I mean, they've got to keep it together so Kenyon Green can, get up to speed, and hopefully Juice Scruggs gets back, because, Juice Scruggs is much more multidimensional as an offensive lineman than Jared Patterson. There's a reason he got drafted a couple of rounds earlier, but I still am confident Jared Patterson can give you a good, solid job at center. And, I thought he did a really good job last year.
Yeah, for me, Kenyon Green is your run guy. He's your best run blocking offensive lineman. So if he has to be a little deficient in the pass block, I'm okay with that, because he does so much in the run game. To Sanjay's point, this is an expensive offensive line. So I really think they've got to get it together. And it starts with these two bookend tackles that they're pretty pennies. So I think they need to start playing like the money that they're earning.
Tell people about your Texans podcast one more time.
Absolutely. It is called The Bullpen. You can find it wherever you view your podcasts. We do a postgame and a pregame that normally comes out Monday and Friday. Me and my co-host James Roy, we try to do a phenomenal job giving you everything you need during the week to get you ready for Sunday. Come check us out. YouTube, you can catch us there. Look for me on social media, whether it's Instagram or Twitter, and you'll find out when our next Bullpen podcast is coming out.
Me and Steven are going to preview the Texans later this week. He's going to come in later because he's got some stuff to deal with in the middle of the week. So probably on Thursday, you're going to hear from me and Steven previewing the Texans game, talking Astros as well. Astros inching closer to the playoffs, hopefully. And then we're going to have a preview like we always do with another team's expert on. This time it's going to be the Vikings to preview the Texans-Vikings game next week. The Vikings with a surprising, kind of shocking win over the 49ers. So they're no joke right now. They're playing well. Beat up really badly on the Giants. You thought, that's no big deal. It's the Giants. But the 49ers, beating the 49ers, that's more of a big deal. So we're going to preview that one. Should have a guest this week for that. So look for it. But thanks everybody for stopping by Houston Sports Talk. Again, we want to hear from you. So come back next week. Give us your comments. Love to talk to you guys as well on all the social medias. I'm up on, most of the time I'm up on Twitter. So I'll see you over there. But thanks again, Tom. Texans 2-0, baby. It wasn't pretty, but it's 2-0.
You're listening to Houston Sports Talk.
Hey, you can support the show by subscribing on YouTube and commenting on the videos. Listen to Houston Sports Talk on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, and Google. Don't forget to tell a friend and share our show on social media. Spread the word, everybody. Thanks for listening.